Hey everybody, happy Monday and welcome to an all new episode of Let's Stay Together. I am so excited to have my guest on the show today, CAITY LOTZ. She is the star of Legends of Tomorrow on the CW. We have an amazing conversation to get to, all about the show, all about her character. We are going to have a blast on this Monday. So get comfy and let me grab my guest in 1 minute. I am so excited for this conversation, you guys. Great way to kick off the week. And just so you know, I have your fan questions. I will be asking the most popular ones towards the end of the interview. So stick around for your questions to see if it was asked. And we're going to have a really, really great conversation. All right, let me check on Katie. She should be here any second, you guys. I'm excited. I always think a show, when it has this many seasons, it's super interesting to talk to the stars of the shows and hear kind of what stands out to them and what they've enjoyed and what they hope to see, and just dive into everything related to the concept of the show that we can. So it should be a good one. I'm really, really looking forward to chatting with Katie, and let me grab her. Hey Katie.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Oh, hold on. Let me get this thing. Hold on a sec.
Get all the tech together. Good. There we go. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no problem. Nice to see you.
I started this show back in March when COVID shut the world down because I wanted people to have a place every week that they can turn to for some fun and joy and inspiration and to hear from people they love. So it's great to have you. We're going to have some fun today.
Thanks. Cool.
And to all the fans who are tuned in, I have your questions. I'll be asking some of the most popular questions a bit towards the end of the interview, so stick around for that. But Katie, diving right in, I mean, a big congrats to you on the massive success of your show, Legends of Tomorrow. You've been filming season 6. You recently got picked up for season 7. This is easily one of the most critically acclaimed superhero shows on TV, period. So when you found out about that season 7 pickup, what was that moment like for you, and what did it mean to you?
It's so funny. It's like to think that our show is critically acclaimed, which it is, but it's just the last thing you would think of such a silly, fun kind of bonkers show. But it's really cool that people like it so much. Hearing about season 7 is just like, kind of like, I can't believe like how long, we've kind of been able to keep this show interesting and unique, ever evolving and changing. I think the writers have done such a great job with that, because it really is like every season's different. And season 6 is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it to come out. I don't know when the air date is, but we're all looking so forward to it coming out. It's so much more fun when you get to share it with the fans. Because usually at this point, we would have aired already while we're filming the other stuff. Like we've been kind of creating in vacuum for a bit now, for a couple of months. So it's like we're all just like ready for it to come out.
Yeah, everyone's super excited, and they've loved following your behind-the-scenes glimpses. I mean, I know you're being a little hush-hush about it, but we see you giving us some glimpses into everything. And I love it because, when a show is this whimsical and this fun and so many different things are going on, I love hearing from the cast about...
Sorry, a balloon? Did you see? There's like a balloon literally just floating out across, and I was getting so distracted.
I feel like I saw it behind you in the reflection.
Yeah. I know. I was like, what is that?
That's funny. But yeah, when the show is so whimsical and fun, I love hearing from the cast on how you would describe this show to somebody. What would you say?
Whimsical and fun. Gosh, what would I? I mean, it's like, it's bonkers. It's like such a... I really love the unpredictability of the tone of the show. I think it kind of straddles a nice line of being totally out there and weird and really grounded emotionally, and watch the characters make it real. And I'm realizing the more I watch different movies and films and stuff like that, I love it when a show or film can nail an interesting tone.
Mm.
something where you're like, that could go really wrong. Like that could really not work, but like making it work.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting for sure. And especially because this character's been a part of you for a while now, right? Like on Arrow, you played Canary, and then of course now on Legends, you play Sarah's alter ego, White Canary. So in your mind, what is that distinction between the two of them? And did you have any idea years ago that one day you would be the leader in your own spin-off show? Like how epic is that?
Had no idea. Sorry, getting a call through. Um, the difference between the two characters, I think a lot of it comes from the difference from the tone of the two shows. I think, you know, the Sarah Lance on Arrow and the Canary was very dark, very much a lone wolf. And I think part of Sarah's journey was to grow beyond that, which is why it was so cool to see her get to continue her journey on Arrow or on Legend. And I think what she learned was like how to keep going. So how to be a part of the team. And I think a lot of what made her survive through everything she did is becoming less about herself. I think in the beginning she was very much about herself and stuck in her own tortured world, things that have happened to her and the things that she had done, like riddled with guilt. And I think becoming a part of a team and not having to worry about herself so much or think about herself freed her up a lot to be more, to evolve and yeah, and be a little more lighthearted and fun with, you know, Legends brings.
Yeah, yeah, she's super fun to watch, and there's always so much that's going on, right? I mean, between traveling through different time zones and time worlds, and you know, defeating supervillains to everything else like restoring the timeline and capturing magical creatures, the list goes on and on. But viewers are always excited and surprised, sometimes even shocked with what happens with you. I'm curious to know, did you ever have a moment where you were completely shocked or like shook over something that happened or was going to happen to your character? Like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening.
I mean, all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I think uh, at this point though, it's like anything can happen. Um, so it's not as easy to be surprised because our show is so surprising. You kind of almost get used to that.
Yeah, you expect it at this point.
Yeah.
And especially with the crossovers too. Your fans love a good crossover event. Oliver Queen's death we have to talk about for a second because that was something that surprised many fans and they still talk about. And of course that was on the Crisis on the Infinite Earths crossover. So your character had a hard time processing that. Were you surprised by that, or how did you feel with how she was handling all of that?
No, not surprised by it at all. I mean, there, Sarah, he was probably and yeah, I think actually the last person. Well, now that Sarah's dad's back in the picture, it's a little different. But at the time, there was pretty much nobody left who knew her before, you know, it all went down on the Queen's Gambit. And he was that last connection to her old self, you know, and I think that's something like we all hold very dearly, like who we were when we were kids, you know, how we grew up, the life that we had, and when he left, it was like that all left with it. And I think she felt really alone, like nobody, you know, now that's gone. And Sarah and Oliver had been friends for a really, really long time. And they've been through a lot together. They dated at one point. It's like yeah, definitely had a, you know, strong connection and bond.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And another thing, when I announced you as my guest, it was actually really cool to see that your character's bisexuality is something that people were writing to me and saying, "Oh my God, I feel so seen because of this character, and it's something I've been waiting for years and years on TV." And I mean, I never had anyone to look up to growing up, so I think it's so cool that that's out there for so many people, and that they're so touched by the character and how they can relate to her. So Exploring your love story with Ava on the show, how has that been? And where do you hope that that's going to all go?
It's been a lot of fun, and I mean, to your point, representation is so important. It's so important for all of us to be able to see ourselves on TV. You know, every single sexuality, race, age, gender, like all of the things. And I think at the time when Sarah first kind of came out that she was bisexual, which was a couple of years ago, there wasn't really a lot of that at all on TV. And I think that it was handled really nicely because that wasn't like the whole storyline was just about that. And it was just part of who she was. Um, and I always thought, in addition to like all the people who were able to see themselves in that character, also people who didn't know anyone who was bisexual and then watched the show and was like, oh, okay, like I can understand this. Maybe it's not so different or weird. I think just a lot of times people are afraid of things they don't understand.
Yeah.
And so I think it's also really important for other people to be able to not to be less afraid of things that that maybe they aren't exposed to that much. And with Ava, I think they have a really great relationship, and it's very healthy, which is nice. And of course, like they're not without their challenges, but there's some really great Ava Lance stuff this season that we've been doing. People are really really excited about.
Ooh, good tease. Okay, I know a lot of people can't wait for that. And let's talk about last season too for a second because you gained a superpower, right? You gained clairvoyance, and when people touched you, you could see how they were going to die, and as well as for yourself. And it was a really cool storyline. Were you always hoping that you would play around with the superpower in this series? And how did you feel with how it all kind of wrapped up for you with that?
Yeah, it was definitely like I wanted the superhero power. I was like, because everyone was like, "Oh, you're on a superhero show. Like, what's your powers?" I'm like, "Well, I mean, I don't have any technically powers, but..." And so it's like it'd be fun. I could just like think and like, um, and they're like, "Yeah, your power is like you can't see, but like if people touch you, like you see them die." And it was actually very difficult to do scenes that blind. Um, I think because a lot of, especially in a group scenes, which we have a lot of what you're doing is just watching things and reacting. So like when you don't have a lot of lines in a scene, but you're in the scene with, everybody else, it's like you're able to look at things and it's much harder when your character can't see. But I thought it was pretty cool that the disability was also her ability. And it was fun to play around with. It's always great to find new ways to get bring out different parts of the character and yeah, especially one that's been around for so long.
Yeah, for sure. No, people were psyched to have that as part of last season's storyline. And you mentioned the great cast. I mean, huge cast. People pop in and out, and you work with some really fun people. How is it working with such a great ensemble and being one of the OGs in such a long-running show?
Yeah, I know. It's so weird. Dom and I are always like, really? It's just us now? But there's, so many other people who've been around since like season 2, and it still feels like they've been there forever. And our cast is amazing. We have been so lucky. There's like no drama. We have no cast drama. Knock on wood. Because it is, like that's a lot of different personalities spending a lot of time together.
Oh, yeah.
Like not always the easiest thing, and everyone is so different, and from different like ages and experiences, and it all works really well. And everyone is so sweet. It's such a good group. Like we are blessed, and everybody loves each other. It's great.
Yeah, and it comes across. I always feel like when you watch something and people don't get along and what you're watching, you're like, ooh, I sense something. Like there's stuff going behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So it's cool that's, like one big family with you guys. I love that. And the fandom around the show is unbelievable. Fans have been saying they've watched this show multiple times from start to finish during quarantine. So what is it about Legends do you think attracted such widespread, fast fandom to get that season 7? And what is one of the many messages you hope people walk away when they watch the show?
I think it is a very unique show. And I think people appreciate that. Like there's nothing formulaic to it. So I think it's exciting to watch because it's different than all the other stuff that you've seen. And I think a big part of the message of the show, like, and what it's about is it's not about like these perfect superheroes who like have it all figured out, and it's the exact opposite. It's like a group of people who are tremendously flawed, and are doing their best, but sometimes it's not very it's not the best, and I think that's really fun, instead of watching like, oh, it's perfect superhero and this is what they're gonna do and save the day. um so I think that's what draws a lot of people to our show, and also like our show is a bunch of outcasts, like what the Legends are. Like, we're people who didn't fit in wherever we were, and we kind of all came together. I think another one of the big themes is chosen family.
Mm.
There's, I think, a lot of people out there, either they have their chosen family, and how important it is, to kind of have that, and I think people also really relate to it because it's like, you don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to be like this formulaic thing or like what it's supposed to be. Like, it's more fun when you're not unique and different, and you're flawed, but you're doing your best. And I think a lot of people relate to that.
Yeah, they're messages that I think we need more of, and I love that it's a show that reaches so many and it stands for such incredible things. So rock on, I love that. You're also a badass director. Let's give you some props for a minute, and people are very interested and excited with your directing work and to see what's coming with that. So how has that experience been, especially working as a director in episodes on a show that you've starred in for so long? I mean, is that a total whoa moment?
It's really cool. I mean, I love being able to be behind the camera and kind of have a say in all the different elements. Like, I really enjoy getting to pick out, like, with the costumes, and what the the set should look like, and what the cars are, and how it all goes together, rather than just your individual part and show. It's fun to step out and be a part of the collective more. And I think, like, I've been on the show for a while now, and so it's really nice to have an additional challenge, something creatively to challenge me, and I really like directing. Like, I really enjoy it. I think I've always been very right brain, left brain. I'm not just like, I don't know. I like the more logistical and like planning side of it. It's really fun to kind of meld all those things together, and also to work with the crew in a new capacity. You get to know them differently, and they get to know you differently. And yeah, this season, it's a really special episode that I got to direct, which is cool. It's totally different from the one I did last season, but it's really, really cool. I'm super excited about it, and hopefully I'll do some more in season 7.
Rock on. That's awesome. You're doing it all. I love that. And speaking of season 6, I know that you've been filming during a pandemic. So what has that been like for you? And I know you Probably can't tell me anything about it, which I understand. But if you can't give me any little hints at what's to come, do you think the fans are gonna react excitedly about the new season? Or what's one word you think that will describe the season?
I mean, I think that our show is a fun ride. Like, if they come along, like, it's a fun ride. Like, I can promise you it's gonna be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, and working during the pandemic has been, it's definitely has its challenges, but all in all, we feel very blessed to be able to work. There's so many people that, you know, are not able to work and are struggling or losing their businesses, and it can be such a difficult time. And so we're all very happy to be able to still kind of keep going. But it does present new challenges. Like, we don't have as much time to film. We all get COVID tests 3 times a week. And so it's constantly like, you know, you're trying not to get COVID. You don't want to be the person that, like, shuts down production and slows it all down, and trying to keep everybody safe. There's a lot of you know, different protocols and things that we've been figuring out. Usually we have like a lot of atmosphere, like smoke and stuff. And we haven't been allowed to have any of that. And so, like, trying to keep the look of the show with, but we have a whole like COVID team, and everybody wears masks. And, yeah, it's an interesting time. It's for sure an interesting time.
Yeah, we're all trying to make it work. Do you have a lot more to film of the season? A lot more to go?
We have like 5 more episodes to shoot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Very, very cool. Let me get to a few fan questions. Now, these were the most popular fan questions I received, the top 3. Number 1, anyone you are dying to have come on the Wave Rider from a different show in the same universe of all you guys, and just a random character on a totally separate show that you would like to bring on. I thought that was kind of fun.
On a totally separate show. Oh, well, one of my favorite shows is Peaky Blinders.
Nice.
What's the main guy's name? I don't remember what his character name is, but him.
Okay.
Oh, no, what's his name?
I don't know.
Do you watch that show?
No, I know of it. I haven't seen it yet. But should I put it on my list?
Yes.
Okay.
He'd be, I guess, just like the show, but would make 0 sense. But, you know, whatever. And from our universe, maybe, let's see. I mean, I guess like Candace Patton from The Flash, because she's my she's my good friend, and we went snowboarding yesterday and had a blast, and I would love for us to be able to work together. It would be fun to kind of be able to be on the same sets together. Cool.
That's amazing. Do you guys film near each other?
No, they're at one stage, we're at another stage. We used to film next to Supernatural, but they left. Oh, Batwoman. We film right next to Batwoman, but I haven't seen them yet. It's so weird with COVID. It's like,
yeah,
you got to keep it all separate, because, like, yeah, you just don't know. But I'll have to like go and find their trailers and be like, hey.
But she would be a fun one to see on the Wave Rider. I like that choice. Solid choice.
Yeah.
The second most popular question, aside from your own relationships, what's your favorite Arrowverse ship? This was like, I got this question like crazy.
Arrowverse ship. I mean, besides, this is what they mean.
There's so many.
Yeah, and like Odyssey is, I mean, that's still always like great. You know, I feel like they're such a great story. So maybe even if Sarah was gone, I'd say Odyssey.
Nice. Nice, nice. And then lastly, the hardest stunt you've ever had to perform in the show.
I think there was a fight scene that I did that was a oneer, which means that they don't cut. And it was a really long fight. And normally you can kind of break it up and do it just in pieces, and you kind of get that, and you can pause and try to remember what's next. And this particular fight there was no cuts. And so I had to do the whole thing, and it was like running up the stairs and like flipping on the thing and then throwing something and like hitting the guy and like all of these different things that, and if you slip up on like just one of them, it's like the whole shot's ruined. So that was probably, yeah.
That sounds
Cutting it too. They ended up cutting it up, so it wasn't even one anyways. And I was like, well, great.
Oh my God, I give you credit because that's a lot of hard work, but rock on. It's pretty impressive. You put up an Instagram video once of you training, I think, not too long ago. With, what do you call that thing you had?
I don't know. They were like,
like a long stick, and you were whipping it around and all over.
Maybe a bow staff.
I was like, how are you doing that? It's impressive.
Yeah, Filipino martial arts.
Wow.
That stuff, and it's great for like weapons.
Yeah, badass. I love that. I have to share this with you. I've seen so many beautiful messages come across as I was preparing for the interview, and fans were writing in, and just amazing things written about your character. And I want to read one of them to you because it really kind of took me, back. Okay, Sarah gets to be what so many of us aspire to want to be. She's an amazingly competent captain and fighter. She faces her fears and her issues boldly. She believes in the power of healing. And as a trauma survivor and someone who must grieve the deaths of many she loves, Sarah manages to remain hopeful and to see beyond the limits of her own life to try to love and open her heart again. Wow, I read that and was like, holy crap, like what a beautiful thing for people to pull from what you portray, and what your artistry leaves for people to connect with is unbelievable. How does it feel hearing something like that?
I mean, you talk to anybody about how Sarah has affected their life, and it's so powerful because it just reminds you like what you're doing it's important, even though it's fun and it's TV and whatever, like it still is important and can have an effect on people's life. And I think that is such an amazing message, and that's what comes across to people. And I think that is kind of the essence of who Sarah is. And again, it's like the example of not being perfect. It's like there's so much stuff has happened to Sarah, and she's had to endure and live through so many terrible things, and then at the end of the day, like no matter how much you get knocked down, to still get back up and to get back up with an open heart and not be bitter. Like that's the challenge. It's like to not let ourselves get too hard. And I think it's really interesting to see such a tough, strong character who's still able to stay soft, Yeah,
and I love that she just helps so many people in their everyday life. I always say the power of TV and film is pretty amazing, and what people pull from artists and the work they put out is incredible. So I love that you leave that for your audience, and it's a special thing. And lastly, before I let you go, your fans, they've been standing by your side for years. They are your biggest champion and advocate, and they look forward to seeing the new seasons to come. So what do you want to say to them, all of these wonderful people here who rock and cheer you on?
I say that I love them and that I appreciate them so much. And a lot of times, like on Instagram, I get messages and stuff like that, and I try to read a lot of them, but I don't really respond because it's just a can of worms I don't really want to open. But I want to let everyone to know that I do see you and I hear you, and I appreciate you, and it really does fill my heart up to hear like what my character has brought to people. and they inspire me so much with those things. So thank you.
Katie, it's been a pleasure. I love what you stand for. I love the work you put out. I look forward to following your career and hopefully interviewing you in person in the future next time, post-COVID. But keep on rocking. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for hanging.
Sounds good. See
All
you.
right. Be well.
Thanks.